Hello and welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation with me, your host, Owen, the channel that brings you your team every single day, the channel that keeps you up to date with all the latest goings on at Ibrox. You know what? There's only one way to make sure you get that. That's to hit the sub, ring the notification bell. Now, there's a lot of people watching the channel who's still not subscribed. Guys, if you've not subscribed, come on, please hit that sub. Help build the channel even further and show that lot from across the city that we have the biggest channels out there. Well, we're going to talk about a few different things in this morning, this afternoon, this evening's video, depending on obviously when you are watching the video. That's the key thing. When you're watching, you can watch it whenever you want, because you know what, we don't charge here. It's free. Yes, there is a membership scheme. Yes, you can join the membership scheme. It is only 99p to support the channel. Obviously, shout outs, priority in replies, etc., etc. But you know what? If you don't want to pay, it's fine, because the content's free. I'm not going to go onto Patreon. I'm not going to start charging you for content. So please, obviously, hit that sub, ring that notification bell. Well, we've got a few things to cover off this morning, this afternoon, this evening. We're going to talk a little bit about players who might be on the way out of Ibrox. We're going to talk about Danio, where there's strong rumours about him at the moment. We're going to talk about Jerry Yates. Do you remember him? We're going to talk about Jose Cifuentes. Yes, him again. We're going to talk about Fashion Sakala, the smiling assassin. And we're going to talk about possible Rangers formation for next season. Well, where to start? Let's start with obviously the big news of the moment. No, it's not Leon Balogun signing. No, it's not Robbie McCrory throwing his toys out the pram and deciding he wants to leave. If you do want to find out what my thoughts and feelings are on Robbie, there's a video that I did drop yesterday regarding Robbie McCrory and the fact that obviously he wants to leave the club. Check that out. That was released yesterday evening. Well, let's talk obviously about let's talk about the smiling assassin first. Let's talk about Mr. Fashion Sakala himself, a man who, it's fair to say, divides the room. Yes, he does. He divides the room, doesn't he? Old fashioned. You know, let's witness those two misses in the Viaplay League Cup final and the Scottish Cup semi-final when it was easier to score. Fashion missed. And let's face it as well, you know, that game, even though he scored at Ibrox against the lot from across the city, look, let's be honest, you all thought he was going to miss, didn't you? You all thought the side netting would ripple, not the actual net. So Fashion is someone, like I said, who divides opinions. People think he's great. Some people think he's awful. Some people think he's a squad player. There's so many camps you can be in with Fashion Sakala. There's been obviously talk about him leaving, links to teams like Auxerre, for example, links to clubs in Italy, links even to newly promoted Premier League team Burnley, also reportedly interested in taking Fashion Sakala to the English Premier League, which kind of gives the impression that maybe he's a little bit better than what we thought he was. If you know, I know it's a newly promoted team, but it's still a Premier League team, isn't it? Are sniffing round old Fashion Sakala. I mean, his stats last season weren't too bad at all. 29 games in the SPFL, 12 goals, 7 assists. That's 19 goal contributions in 29 games. Scottish Cup, there was none. There was just 4 games in that. UEFA Champions League, 5 games in that. Very little contribution in Europe across 2 seasons, even during the Europa League, when 11 appearances, no goals, no assists. So very much a sort of domestic-based player, and perhaps someone who would be better off just being used as a squad player in the domestic game. But Fashion has done something that has dropped a huge hint that he could well be off. Now, we all know that Rangers need to trim their squad. We all know that 35 is too many. We all know that, well, we kind of know, I suppose, that, well, we're kind of guessing. Let's be honest about it. We're kind of guessing, aren't we? That Rangers may have been told that before they bring in any more players, they need to sell some, maybe not just for the money, but also to clear some space in the squad. That wage bill must be huge with 35 players. Now, according to a number of news reports, Fashion Sakala has scrubbed all reference to Rangers from his Twitter. Apparently, it's still on his Instagram, but not on his Twitter. Now, this is usually a sign that something is going to happen as reference that player. Now, he's already still under contract. Now, I know in the NFL, it's a famous trick of NFL players is to scrub all references to their team off their social media before entering a contract negotiation. So it's not that. So the rumour seems to be very strongly that Fashion Sakala could be on his way out of Glasgow Rangers, that he could be about to be sold for some serious money. Well, let's not say about £2-3 million. You know, personally speaking, Fashion, I think, would be a great squad player. I think he'd be a good backup, someone to come off the bench, have an impact. He's got speed, he's got a bit of skill. When he thinks, he doesn't do so great. So, you know, let's just give him a chance not to think and just to do. And I'm sure he'll be fine. But I think, the problem we've got is the fact we do need to shift out players. We do need to move players. And if bids come in and they're decent bids, you can't really turn them down, especially for players who are not going to be regular first team starters like fashion, I don't think will be this coming season. Saying that with the acquisition of the likes of Sam Lammers, the likes of obviously the acquisition of Abdallah Sima, of Dessers, you add into obviously Canwell, Hadji, Lawrence. There's so much quality there across the midfield. Realistically, is Sakala better than those players? No, he's not. Therefore, is he going to get a game? Possibly off the bench. So, he may want to move on for that reason. So, but it's interesting, isn't it, that he seems to have scrubbed all Rangers references from his Twitter. Interesting. The plot thickens, my dear Watson. The plot thickens. Okay, let's talk about Mr. Saga himself, someone who is longer than Lord of the Rings, longer than the Harry Potter films, which are too long. That is Jose Cifuentes. Yes, the rumor rumbles on. The trilogy, not a trilogy, is it really? It's just that saga. It's carrying on. Obviously, he hasn't signed yet. Yes, there's all those reports still coming out of the States that he has agreed personal terms. It's just down to Rangers and LAFC agreeing a fee. However, Cifuentes scored yesterday for LAFC in a 3-0 victory over St. Louis. And what is interesting was the tweet from LAFC, which was one more for the road. Not one more on the road, one more for the road. Now, when you say one more for the road, it's kind of because you're leaving, because you're going somewhere. We've all heard that saying, especially your grandparents are very good for that. One more drink for the road before you head off there out the pub or out the house, isn't it? One more drink for the road. But obviously don't drink and drive. But interesting, isn't it? Interesting. Is this a bit of a hint? Is this a bit of a clue that they are finally ready to tie up the deal? They are finally ready to allow Cifuentes to move. Is this a hint? Is this a clue? Or is it just a really good tweet? I don't know. Personally speaking, I think the signing will come. I think it will come before the start of the season. I just think that it's going to take more time because of the fact that, like I said to you, Rangers need to ship out players before they bring in any more. With the squad standing at 35, it's just too big, isn't it? Michael Beale spoke last season about wanting a squad of 24, 25, very much for the reason that he wants players to feel more involved. He wants players to feel close to the first team. And he's got a very sort of elite bunch there. You've got your 2 players really for every position, isn't it? That's what you aim for. And 2 strong players for every position. So if one is out, someone of at least equal or slightly less than equal strength comes in to replace them. And for me, you've got to lose, 9, 10, 11 players possibly from this current squad to get Rangers anywhere near that 24, 25-man squad that Michael Beale has spoken of on several occasions. So I do think Cifuentes will join. I do think it will be at some point. However, when, I can't honestly put my finger on it. I broke a story last week that it was close because I was being told that. You read sources in the States, you read sources in Ecuador, you read some sources in Scotland, and you verify it, you cross-check it across 3, 4 sources of information. And if 3, 4, 5 sources are saying the same thing, well, surely it's got to be true, hasn't it? But then it kind of doesn't happen because it's football, and we all know what football's like. At the end of the day, you can get your hopes up that something's going to happen. That Rangers have signed 7 players, but this was going to be great. But you know what? It didn't happen yet, and it hasn't happened yet. But I think it will happen. But just when, I'm not quite sure. It has been rumored that Rangers will bring in 3 more players. Danio, which I'm going to get to in a minute, Cifuentes, and possibly a central defender as yet unnamed. The Panzo situation has got a whole lot more complicated given the fact that Nottingham Forest have missed out on the target they wanted for central defence. No doubt thanks to that complete bungling idiot Ross Wilson. No doubt has some hand to play in that. So it is a chance that they now may want to hang on to Panzo because they've not managed to replace him, and that may slow down even more the process of him leaving to join another club because of the fact that they have to replace him before they sell him, is what they're saying. So that may slow down the Panzo deal, which is not a great thing. Like I said, Balogun has come in, he'll do a job, he's more for cover. And as I reply to a number of your comments, if Leon Balogun is playing a lot of games next season, we know something has gone wrong somewhere, and there's either been a lot of injuries or an incredible loss of form at the back. So, That I think is the situation. Now, like I just said, Rangers need to sell players, I think, not just for money, but also for the fact they need to slim down their squad size. 3 players who are reportedly on the chopping block at this moment in time: Glenn Kamara, Antonio Cholak, and even, yes, Mr. Rabbi Matondo, who really has not settled in or pulled up any trees during his short time and his short career at Rangers. It's been rumoured at the moment that Antonio Cholak's representatives are deep in talk, not only with Pisa, as I said on the video yesterday, but also with Parma. So 2 Italian teams reportedly are sniffing around the Croatian frontman to try and bring him to Serie B, of all places. Now, I think this obviously could be a bit of an issue. Smaller crowds, less competition, no European place. Is that something Antonio Cholak's going to want, or is it just first-team football that he wants, pure and simple, and a chance to prove himself? That could be, obviously, the stumbling block that we face with moving him on. Now, allegedly, Parma are offering $2.5 million, which would obviously give us the money back that we paid for Cholak last summer. So that could be well worth considering as a deal. Personally, I'd like to keep hold of Cholak. I do think he will score goals. I do think that if we don't get any more strikers in Danio, I am coming to him. That there is a chance that obviously that we could do with someone like Cholak. Glenn Kamara has now been linked with Leeds United. Apparently, that is another team that have apparently come calling, on top of Besiktas, on top of Sheffield United as well, and Southampton. Obviously, Sheffield United would be a more attractive proposition. They're Premier League at this moment in time. Leeds and Sheffield United are also Premier League, but Leeds obviously are not, and neither are Southampton. So Besiktas, again, it's perhaps the funds are not there now. Obviously, English clubs, more money, more willing to pay. Rumour has it that Leeds may even be willing to meet Rangers' asking price for Glenn Kamara, which I think is, if that is the case, snap their hands off. I think it's 4.5 with add-ons afterwards coming on for Kamara is what they're offering, and I think that would be a great purchase for Leeds, and I think it would be a great deal for us as well, bringing us in necessary money and possibly money in the future too. So interesting news. Now, this is all around, obviously, the story that is going around on social media, nothing official from the club, and even not a great deal official from a lot of the news sites as well, as regards Danio. Now, this was from Heart and Hand yesterday on Twitter. They said, don't know if Danio bid being accepted is true, but Italian media reporting Parma are close to buying Antonio Cholak for $2.5 million, which would certainly fit. So, like I said to you, the story is that we have to sell to buy. If it is as close as the Italian media is saying that Parma are going to buy Cholak for $2.5 million, then Danilo could well be on his way to the club. Now, it was reported in the Daily Record and the Scottish Sun yesterday that Rangers have gone in with a second bid for Danilo, which goes against reports by Chris Jack and others that they were putting it on the back burner. So it does remain, I think there might be some movement. That may be giving you a big hint that there is movement around one or more of our players out if we are now reigniting those talks and that interest in Danilo. Personally, I think that would be a great move to bring him into the club. I think he's an exciting player. He's only 24 years old. He's quick. He's skillful. He can play behind the striker. He can play wide. He can play as an attacking midfield player. He can play in a number of different positions. And one of the big things about Danilo, which is massively encouraging for us, is given the lack of clinicalness in front of goal that we had last season, Danilo is not afraid to have a pop. And we already know that he's in form. He's already scored in a pre-season friendly for Feyenoord against Zwolle the other day. Now, Jerry Yates, remember him? Well, he has signed now with Swansea, so he is well off Rangers' current radars. He will not be signing for the club because he has now joined Swansea on a permanent basis. So goodbye to Jerry Yates. You are obviously not coming to the club. Obviously, we wish him all the very best indeed. Now, do you remember, I know you don't want to remember this, but I'm going to tell you, I'm going to say anyway. Do you remember Sevilla last year, or the year before last? Do you remember the Europa League final? I don't want to talk about it. But do you remember who we played? Eintracht Frankfurt. Now, they may be set to hurt Rangers again. Yes, again, like some abusive ex coming in and hurting you again and again and again. They may be ready to bid for Malik Tillman. Now, apparently Tillman has an excellent relationship with the top coach at Eintracht Frankfurt. I think he's rather weirdly called Topmuller. I think that's his name. I think it is. Oh, it's just some German reference. I don't know, but that's apparently what it's called. Anyway, apparently Tillman is very keen on a move within the Bundesliga, as well as obviously the English Premier League. And Eintracht Frankfurt are reportedly very interested in bringing the young American to Frankfurt and see him as being a fundamental part of their team for next season. They have money to spend. They have an opportunity to get Tillman. They have an opportunity to meet what Bayern Munich want. Now, why would this hurt Rangers, you may ask? Would it be because we see him playing for someone else? That hurts. Well, some of us it might, but others it might not. Why? Because when Brighton were linked, when Brentford were linked, can anyone remember what the price was? 10 million, 15 million. Good windfall for Rangers. 10% of any transfer fee comes to Rangers. Well, 10 million, a million, 15 million, 1.5 million. All great money to come into the club to add to the 1 million we've already got in compensation for Malik. But reportedly, Eintracht Frankfurt are only offering £6 million, which is only $1 million more than Rangers allegedly had to pay for him. Now, part of me struggles to believe this is true for a number of reasons. Number one, I think the English Premier League is probably more attractive to Malik. Number two, 6 million is a lot less than 10 million if it is true that Brighton and Brentford are interested in paying 10 million for him. And 6 million, like I said, it is not much more than what they broke agreement with Rangers. So why would break an agreement for 5 million when you could probably get 6 million out of them at a push, and then sell him for 6 million to a Bundesliga rival? Interesting. Very interesting indeed. This is being rumoured. I certainly hope he doesn't go there. I'd like to see him go to one of the English Premier League clubs because they always overpay, and therefore it means a bigger windfall for the club. So that's what, let's face it. Do we want him to go there? Not to try. Don't go there, Malik. Don't go there. I know you love Glasgow Rangers Nation. Don't go there. Go and join a Premier League club. Okay, I'm going to finish off this morning, this afternoon, this evening's video, just talking about formations. Now, there's been a lot of attempts to second guess Michael Beale, hasn't there? What formation will he play? How will he play? Personally, I think he'll be quite flexible in his formation, as we saw towards the end of last season. I think he'll be very flexible with how he plays. I think he'll deploy different formations depending on the game, depending on the situation, and that's what gives me more confidence for Europe. The fact that Michael Beale is more willing to be flexible, move his formation around, change his formation to suit the game. I think that's something he will do very well in the Champions League, and I think help us to qualify. So he's also talked about 3 at the back, hasn't he? So that got me thinking. I thought, right, let's try and build a formation and explain this, why 3 at the back could work for Rangers. And here's what I built on buildalineup.com. So I went for 2 up front with Dessers and Lammers. Lammers could drop back and play just off Dessers. So it may be more like a 3-2-3-1-1 formation rather than a 3-2-3-2 formation that I've got them lined up in, or a 5-3-2 effectively. So Dessers and Lammers up front. A midfield 3 then of Cantwell, Raskin and Jack. Jack could be substituted obviously for Cifuentes if he joins, which means Raskin will drop deeper rather than Ryan Jack. Todd Cantwell has the option there to go in Rome to link with Lammers. Him and Lammers could even, Raskin and Jack could drop back to make a 4 with Ridvan and Tav. Cantwell and Lammers could work in behind Dessers. It gives a nice flexibility there. Wing backs, I think, Tav, I think being a wing back would suit Tav a whole lot more than actually being a right back. I think this might suit his game a lot more. Give a lot more freedom to attack. I mean, let's face it, Tav's fantastic going forward, isn't he? And we've seen that. The kid scores, the lad scores goals, doesn't he? Not just from free kicks and penalties, as a lot of people think, but also from open play. And, giving him that freedom there to get forward and to create chances and also take chances, I think would be good for him. Ridvan, again, take a little bit off his defensive duties. And that's another thing that 3 at the back does. It takes a little bit away from those defensive duties. It also enables you perhaps to play a Cifuentes in there and allows the midfield to be more forward thinking, more obviously in the game. I'm going for a back 3 of Sterling, who can play at centre back as well as right back and left back. I also think he can link nicely with Tav there, Goldson and Suter. You've also got a flexibility to that formation as well. You could even, attack as a 4-4-2 with that formation. Sterling drops into right back, Ridvan to left back. Tav goes down the right wing a bit further. So there's a flexibility to that formation. Something I think playing 3 at the back also provides. It's not ultra defensive. It can be very attacking. We've seen that as other teams employed it. Brazil even employed it at one World Cup, remember. You can hardly accuse Brazil of being ultra defensive in the way they play. So it's got a nice flexibility to it and a number of players that can interchange. Obviously, there's no Abdallah Sima in that. You could easily substitute Lammers for Sima and perhaps drop Lammers in behind those two and play slightly differently. But, you know, again, it's a flexibility. And what's nice this year, guys, is the fact we have such options, I think, this season. You know, you've still got to come on Sima, you've got Hadji to come on, you've got Tom Lawrence when he's back and fit to come on. You've got talent at Kemar Roof, if fit, Antonio Cholak, if he stays. You've got some good options there to come on and make a difference in this game. So let me know what you think of that formation and what you think of possibly playing 3 at the back next season. Well, guys, that's what I've got for you this morning, this afternoon, this evening, depending on when you are watching. So please hit that sub, help us get that channel up to 2,500, then 3,000, then to 5, then to 7, then to 9, then to 10, and onwards and upwards ever to be one of the big Rangers channels, biggest Rangers channels, so we can get some access to the club. That's what I want, access to the club. Well, I want you to do 2 things for me, as always, guys. 2 things. That's all I need. Just 2 things. 2, and they're free. Hit that like. It's free. And remember something from me. We are the people.